Hi everyone, Helene here, your detox coach. I've been pulled into a conversation where I really like to respond um, on the conversation about fruit versus the carnivore protocol. So this is it. I'm going to dive in. I just wanted to declare my biasness by telling you my story a little bit, where I'm talking from, so you can see my point of view. I was born a Afrikaans girl from South Africa, very Afrikaans. I met my first English speaking friend in London when I was 21, just to give you an idea. We grew up on a farm, processed our own meat. There was abundance of it. We loved it, had it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks in between. It was how I grew up. And in my 20s, I started, playing around with different diets. I was on the Atkins diet for a while. The actual lifestyle of it was what put me off. I did feel quite good, but I was mid 20s. There was nothing wrong with me. I was quite strong and resilient already. And yeah, I just didn't enjoy the grease and the fats and the cleaning, and I didn't enjoy the lifestyle at all. But I did dabble with it for a good longer than a year. And when my first child came, I started really asking questions, especially about energy. I really lacked energy. It was my early 30s, and it didn't make sense to me that in my early 30s I would be this tired. And I started asking questions regarding energy. And someone pushed this book of Mary Ann Scherer in my hand. She's from Cape Town. 1986, this book was a bestseller in the New York whatever. And the book's name is The Perfect Health. And she spoke on how we are actually frugivores. We're supposed to eat fruits only. I laughed that off. For me, that the notion was just absolutely ridiculous. But what I did take from the book was the food combining, which I'm going to spend some time on during this video as well. It's actually one of the things that we agree upon between the fruit and the carnivore protocol is how important the chemistry combination of foods are, and how you should observe that if you want to experience health. So I did take that from the book, and I implemented it and had great results, great increase of energy. It was absolutely amazing. And in that time, my second child arrived. We ate healthier and healthier. We started eating meat less. We switched to organic. We switched to raw milks. We cut out the sugar out of the diet. We started cutting out the gluten out of the diet. So it was just this gradual cleaning up, and kind of starting to live a toxin-free life. I started doing detoxes. I would do a liver flash and a kidney flash and a lung detox here and there. I had friends and family that asked me to start facilitating these detoxes for them. So without even thinking twice, I would just help them to do what I did, and completely thinking I'm helping them to detox. My little boy was born. He was fine till about 7 months. He had some health issues, and the answers of the mainstream medicine was just horrific. So I couldn't go there. I had to now dive into and finding help in the actual healing sector, which they also call the alternative healing sector. And I was helped very beautifully by people. We had all kinds of herbs and oils and CBD stuff and things coming in, and he really did become better. He progressed to a point, and he just didn't heal. He didn't start thriving, and only after the age of 2 he was diagnosed with celiac disease. So that was a big one for us. That was actually when we started cutting out the gluten and that. And he grew up, and he was about 5 years old, and he was just not thriving. He wasn't thriving. I had to find answers for him. So at the point where I was, where I needed to find answers for him, I wasn't touching fruits. Fruits for me was equal to a chocolate bar. So I just, I didn't eat sugar, so I didn't eat fruit. I might have had one banana a week, if, just because I had to grab something on the go. My husband on the other side at that point really enjoyed fruit, so there was fruits in the house, but I didn't partake in any of it, didn't push anyone to partake in it. We were all educated about how bad fruits are for us, so we shouldn't touch it. And because I was into this world of detoxing, and it became a little bit more official, I had more official online workshops happening. That's where my research was taking me as well. And one December, I was by myself, and I dedicated the whole month to deepening my understanding, and I researched a lot. And I came across Dr. Robert Morse. So this is the very doctor that got this conversation going. He's in his 70s, and everyone that's learned to trust him and learn from him loves him very dearly. He has really dedicated his life to this cause of helping people out of their misery, you know. And unfortunately, on the group where this conversation was taking place, there was a hideous video where a certain person on YouTube took Dr. Morse apart on a very personal level. It was very, very horrid to see. But this very dear Dr. Morse was the person I came across, and he was speaking about his understanding of the working of the human body and how the elimination process is one of 4 natural processes. So when we detox, it's not actually something we do to the body. It's just the innate process that we're actually restoring so that the rest of the body can heal. And his understanding was just so spot on. I was in tears. I was very happy to come across this master. And then he ends this video with, okay, so the answer is you are frugivore. So if you want to heal, you have to eat fruits to heal, and fruits only. I was very emotional at that point. I could not take it. I had to switch off and just leave it there. It stayed with me for a couple of weeks, and then I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to prove him wrong. I'm actually going to show him that it can't be fruits, but you know, and I went for it, my first fruit detox, and it went for just, I think it was about 5 months, the first round. When I got to, I think it was the 5th or 6th week, I had I had at least 2 cups of mucus coming out of my chest and my head space. It would just come out of my mouth, and I had to spit, and it became very antisocial, you know, and I just had to keep space for my body, and it kept on going for 3 months, you know, and that was the first time I actually detoxed. My whole life has changed since that moment. I still today have not stopped speaking about it, you know. Since then, I've engaged in about 4-6 months detoxes, very many shorter fruit detoxes, you know, week long, a couple of months long. And I'm now committed again. I'm almost completing month 2, and it's an absolute amazing way to heal the body. There's just no 2 ways about it. I'm not saying everyone have to eat only fruits and that's the only way we can live on this planet. That's not true. We are all sovereign beings, and that's the beauty of it. We have all freedom of choice, and with this body, you can do whatever you want. It's your body. You can literally do whatever you want with this body. So there's no right or wrong. I love that saying of Rumi where it says, beyond the world of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. Meet me there, you know. So this conversation is not about what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. What I'm going to communicate throughout here is my anecdotal experience, because from that moment onwards, I started facilitating fruit protocol based detoxes. And I've now had probably about 60 plus groups, over 2,000 people that I've introduced to this notion. Some, I would say about 10% of them are still on it with me, you know, on a long-term basis. Some of them permanently without stepping away from it. Others, like myself, would step into it for 3 to 6 months every year or every other year or whatever, you know, everyone had their own personal journey. But I'm 6 years now on a carb-based diet, where I would say maybe 5% of my diet is protein, if it's that much. The reason why I do make this space for protein is I love hummus, you know, and it's a protein-based dish. So sometimes I will have hummus, not often at all, but I will, you know. Sometimes I will share a beautiful lentil curry with a friend of mine, and I'll have it, you know, but it's really like maybe once or twice a month. But and it's not just me, it's my family as well. 3 children, 3, 10 and 13, so very much still growing, very healthy children, very sharp. You know, I just us 5 already kind of proves that this whole thing of fatty liver disease and all these things that they say fruit does to you, it's kind of, what? Really? Okay. And then I'm also in this privileged position where I'm a witness to so many other people's journeys and them healing on the fruits on a short-term basis and on a long-term basis, because that's another thing that the conversation is. You know, the carnivore says, yeah, but short-term is going to work, and we say, yeah, but so I'm just speaking from my experience today, and I'm going to share my knowledge, and I'm giving it to you as a sovereign human, and you get to make with that what you want. So that's the one thing I just wanted to make sure that we agree upon, that we are sovereign humans that can really do what we want. One thing we can consider, though, is that we design our world through what we consume. If we want to consume more Coca-Cola, there's going to be more Coca-Cola factories and trucks and stuff around. If we want to consume more pork, there's going to be more pork around. If we're going to consume more, you know, pharmaceuticals, there's going to be more pharmaceuticals around, right? So we literally are designing our world with what we eat. And I would like to invite you to just imagine what a world would look like if 8 billion people were to eat only meat, and the mismanagement that will go with that, and the fields that will be going to desolation, the fact that trees won't be necessary anymore. It would literally decay. We will end up with a very flat, fielded planet that's got a lot of oats growing and alfalfa growing. We'll have a lot of slaughterhouses, we'll have a lot of blood, we'll have a lot of bones, we'll have a lot of grease, we'll have a lot of fire, we'll need a lot of fire. I don't know, it just doesn't compute for me so well, where if you can imagine what a world would look like if 8 billion people eat fruits only, it becomes a much more beautiful place. There's also that quote, I tried to find it now before the recording, but I couldn't. But it's something like, on a 1 hectare farm, you can feed 20 families with animals. You know, you can sustain animals enough to feed 20 families. With a 1 hectare farm, you can, if you were growing vegetables, you can feed up to 100 or 1,000 families or something like that. And then if you have a 1 hectare fruit forest, you can feed up to 10,000 families. So all of these things just plays a role in how we design our world and how we choose our world through the lifestyle and consumption we choose. Another thing I want to mention here, if you have a strong body, if you are one of those lucky ones that really got good genetics from your ancestors, you don't even have to worry about choosing diets. You can literally do what you want. I know people that are in their 90s, they live on cigarettes and white bread and Coca-Cola. You know, they party their butts off, you know, and as an iridologist, I can see in their eyes the extremely strong constitution they have. They just don't have to, they're going to need more than one lifetime to stuff up their body. Everything we do to our body have a consequence though, right? So whatever they do to their body would be carried over to their children as their part of adding to the genetics. So eventually it adds up, and that's why many of us are in the situation where we don't sit with that strong body. We don't sit with that strong genetics. And if you're in that situation, if you are experiencing disease, if you are experiencing discomfort, this is a very good time for you to dive into this kind of research, into this conversation, and see which way you're going to go to actually heal your body, and what kind of lifestyle you're going to build around that. Okay. So the fiber of our existence, I want to bring this in at this point. There's a couple of just theoretical things I want to just lay down right now before I jump into the actual conversation. Our fiber of existence are observed in 2 major categories at this point: physics and chemistry. Outside of this, we don't have much going on. We've got quantum physics is the newest thing added, but it still falls under physics, right? So these are the 2 categories we define and observe our world in. So if you look at physics, it's all about electromagnetism. So if you look at the electromagnetism of the foods you eat, that equals the energy of the food that the food delivers to your body. You know, energy is not the minerals or the actual, the sugar or the protein. That's not energy. The energy is electromagnetism. So culinary photography is you can take a picture of the electromagnetic load around anything. If it's a rock, if it's a piece of food, or if it's a human, if it's an animal, if it's a tree, anything can have this. You take a photo of this and it shows you the electromagnetic load this thing has. So if you look at meat, the electromagnetic load, the light that comes from a dead piece of flesh is minimal. It's like there's a light there, and there's a light there, and there's a light there. And this is a raw piece of meat before it's cooked. If it's cooked, there's no electromagnetism. If you look at fruits on the other side, if you take the picture, it is the food type on this planet with the biggest load of electromagnetism. So we are electromagnetic beings that we need to have energy comes in and sustain us. So that's the one thing. I just want to park that there. The other thing is chemistry. There's only two sides to chemistry. There's acidity and there's alkalinity. And you can't get away from, you can't now ignore this. I mean, this is huge. There's only two sides to chemistry. And it's either acid or it's alkaline. And acids and alkaline have beautiful roles to play. We can't live one without the other. Acids we need for breakdown. We need the corrosive characteristic of acids to sustain life. If life doesn't break down, we can't create new life, right? And we will be living in a graveyard. We will be living in a dump. It will be horrific if it wasn't for acids. Acids are hot. It's masculine, it's forceful, it's strong. Alkalines on the other side is soft, it's feminine, it's cool, it is not forceful, it sustains life much better. And this is not something that happens inside the human body only. This is in general speaking, right? And it seems to be this beautiful homeostasis where 80% alkalinity, 20% acidity seems to be where the environment flourish. If that environment is a human body or animal body, a piece of earth, that seems to be the balance. So this is something you can go research on your own if you want to. So if we take this now to the human body, monkey in, monkey out, right? So if I take acids in, if I take food in that leaves an acidic ash, we'll get to what an acidic ash is in a little bit. And that acidic ash is not leaving my body successfully. It means that acidic ash is still in the body. Same with alkaline ash. But the difference is about, I'm not going to put an amount to it, but a large amount of acids cannot be used by the body. And the larger amount of alkaline elements can actually be used by the body. But there are elements in the alkaline world that can't be used by the body, and there are elements in the acid world that can be used by the body, especially like phosphorus and manganese. These are very important acidic elements, minerals that your body needs to build bones, right? So the acid side of thing is all this masculine dominant. It's the sympathetic nervous system. You get the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, right? The sympathetic is where you're ready, on action. Everything is shutting down. The digestion and everything is shutting down. Everything is coming to the extremities and to the senses because we need to be there. It's an urgency, it's stimulated energy. It's like we need to be here now. That's the sympathetic state. The parasympathetic state is after you've experienced the sympathetic state, you go into that, okay, we survived that, now all the extremities can start sending energy back to the inner working of digestion and just rest and everything is calming down and soothing. And that's the parasympathetic side of stuff, which is again the alkaline side of the world. And this is where we rather depend on dynamic energy instead of stimulated energy. Dynamic energy is this constant flow of energy. It doesn't have spikes, while stimulated energy is a spike and a drop and a spike and a drop and a spike and a drop. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. So while we're on this acid and alkaline conversation, let's quickly touch on pH. How do you go about checking the pH of your body? If I say your body is acidic, what am I referring to? Or if I say your body is not acidic, what of your body is not acidic, right? So let's maybe talk about that a little bit. Our body exists of cells. Doesn't matter what part of the body you look at. The liver is liver cells. The spine is bone cells and marrow cells, and the adrenal glands exist of cells that makes up the adrenal glands. There's blood cells. There's every part of your body exists of cells. That is the bricks, the building blocks of this body. There's nothing else that builds this body but cells. Then you've got two major fluids. You've got blood and you've got the lymphatic fluid. Blood feeds the cells and the lymphatic fluid cleans the cells, right? This is very important to understand that those exist and how to keep them healthy, to have healthy cells. Then there's nerve component, which really actually boils down to cells, right? You've got your nerve cells in every cell. You've got your neurological matrix, your brain and your spine and the actual which exists of cells. Then there's some chemistry like enzymes and hormones and there's bacteria and fungi and viruses, and these are minuscule, right? And they come and go. You can continue existing without them being present in the now. If your cells are not present in the now, your body is not here, right? So that's what the body exists of. So when we say let's talk about cells. Let's talk about cells first. When cells become acidic, we call it a cancer cell. Now that's interesting, right? So we can't say everyone is walking around being acidic because their cells are acidic, because not everyone are riddled with cancer cells yet. When we look at blood, the moment your blood goes acidic, you're dead within 3 minutes. There's this very small spectrum, and this is something, of course, we agree with the carnivores, by the way. There's this very small window of pH of 6.9, which is already playing with fire, to pH of 7.4. If your blood goes to lower than 6.9, you drown in your own blood, and there's no reversing it. My father actually passed away. He was in hospital receiving chemo, and his blood turned. He didn't have a spleen anymore. His blood turned acidic, and he left us. So that is a truth and very much an anecdotal experience I had. And then there is lymph. Now the lymphatic fluid is your sewage system. It makes up 80% of the fluid in your body. You know how they say we're 90% water or we're 70% water? That's actually the water they refer to. It's not H2O, it's actually H3O. It's a very plasmic water. You know what it looked like. You know that discharge you get when you walk in somewhere and something is irritating you, that see-through plasmic water discharge you get, that is lymph. That was like mucus produced by this area now because of the irritation, and the mucosa produced it, right? But that is your lymph. So you need this lymph in your body. You need it to be present. Why? Because it picks up the waste of your system. Now, when we think of waste, we sometimes think of digestive waste only, right? We think of the food that we take in that's got the fiber and everything in it. It's being digested, it's being absorbed, it's going to the colon, and eventually now we've got this feces that leaves our body. That is digestive waste. The lymph doesn't have that much to do with it. It does have to do with it indirectly, though. The lymph is in between every cell in your body. It's not so much in the cavities. It can be produced by the mucosa of the GI tract, and there could be mucus in the cavities. I'm not saying it could never be there, but this lymphatic fluid I'm referring to is inside your body. So you've got this tube that is on the inside of your body, but it's not inside your body yet. Food has to go down this tube and be absorbed through the tube to go to the inside of your body. So now that we're in the inside of the body, there's this fluid that everything lives within. And that is the lymphatic fluid. It's mixed with your blood. It has its own system. It's got its own vessels and everything. But it's this river that flows, the blood and lymphatic river that flows. It's got different functionality. The blood carries the nutrients and the oxygen to the cells. And the lymph carries the waste away from the cells, metabolic waste from the cells. Every time the cell eats, it produces a waste product. And this is picked up by the lymph. And it also transports your immune responses, your enzymes and hormone excretions. All these kind of things are more focused on the lymph as a transport than the blood. Luckily, we've got the blood as backup if the lymph fails to transport these successfully, which can happen because why? Because lymph is the sewage system, right? It has to be connected to your elimination organs. So what is our elimination organs? Our biggest elimination organ is our skin. Our colon, of course, our GI tract, the colon part of it eliminates our digestive waste. And we've got the kidneys. The two kidneys are major elimination organs. This is the two major lymphatic elimination organs. There's this connection between the lymphatic fluid and the kidneys, which we can thank Dr. Morse for. He kind of discovered this connection. Not that he created it, he only discovered an existing connection between the lymphatic fluid, which is your sewage system, and your major elimination organs for your lymphatic fluid, which is your kidneys. And when the kidney stops filtering, you've got a huge problem. Now we start accumulating. And I would say about anything between 80 to 95% of the humans walking the face of this planet are sitting with kidneys that are not filtering. Why do I say this? Because of over 2,000 people I introduced to this protocol that tells me they do the urine test to see if their kidneys are filtering, and 80 to 95% of them, their kidneys are not filtering. It took me 4 months on a fruit protocol to get my kidneys to filter for the first time. I don't know, it was the first time in my life. I don't know when my kidneys stopped filtering. But when your kidneys stop filtering, you start accumulating daily wastes, as well as whatever toxins you put in your mouth. So if you eat outside of your species, if you eat things that you shouldn't be eating and your kidneys are not filtering, you are literally stockpiling your body full of toxins on top of the cellular metabolic waste that happens on a daily basis. And this now, instead of exiting your system, are moving around in your system and accumulating and accumulating. One of the characteristics of this waste is that it's very acidic. And one of the characteristics of acids is to dehydrate. So now this lymph literally starts dehydrating and becomes stickier and stickier. You've seen yellow snot. You've had coughs before where you cough out green or yellow or brown mucus. And that's the things that is surrounding your cells after a while. That's what it looks like. We can pick it up in an iridology reading. When you look at the iris, there's the planet, it's the iris. If it's like a blue iris, the planet is blue. And then you've got like clouds on top that's either white, yellow, brown, or sometimes black. And this is the lymphatic fluid that shows. And it shows the 4 stages of it. White is the first stage of congestion. People with white eyes can die of that congestion, even if it hasn't progressed to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because of the sheer volume of the blockage of having that much thick white snot surrounding all your cells. Then the second level is for more dehydrated and sticky mass is yellow, then it's brown, and then it's black. So when you are sitting with cells that are surrounded with this kind of thick lymph that is now accumulated over time, food can't get to those cells, and wastes are not really leaving the cells. So the wastes which are acidic are literally breaking down the cell from the outside, and the cell probably could have been resilient enough to withstand this if it were to receive the necessary nutrients successfully to do so, which many times now doesn't happen. And then the cell starts deteriorating, and eventually the acids creeps within the cell, and the cell actually becomes a cancer cell. And that's just one scenario of what could happen. Okay, I'm going to park the acid and alkaline conversation there a little bit. We're going to refer back to it. One other thought I want to just establish, or one other thing I just want to kind of communicate, are the 3 different digestive processes. So we've got 3 different digestive processes. We've got our saliva glands that produce alkaline enzymes that break down simple structured carbohydrates, which are basically boils down to your fruits and your vegetables. Most fruits and vegetables, especially if you chew it well and you chew it long enough and you mix it well with your saliva, you actually swallow it, and the stomach in this case is only a chamber. It only holds this mass of food that you've just chewed, mixed with the saliva and the enzymes that's in the saliva, and those enzymes do the breakdown, the alkaline breakdown, and the food goes to the small intestine and starts getting absorbed. If you eat fruits only, okay, let me not go there yet. Let me just get to the second one. The second process is when you eat more complex structured carbohydrates. You're still eating carbohydrates, but now you're eating more complex structures like your starches, your complex sugars, these kind of things. Now, in that case, you need the pancreas to also help produce further alkaline enzymes for successful breakdown. So that's kind of the second digestive process when you bring the pancreas in. And the third digestive process is when you eat complex amino acid structures. So this, when you eat amino acid structures, complex amino acid structures, which is protein, this is now meat, dairy, beans, rice, grains are innately a carb and a protein. So it's a very badly combined food innately in its character. So that's why grains are not even featuring in our life. But when you eat proteins, the enzymes in your saliva doesn't affect the proteins at all. In this case, but when the protein hits the stomach and the small intestines produce the enzymes necessary to create the hydrochloric acids to break down this protein structure. And because it had to use acids to break it down, those acids can't go to the small intestine. It's the only chamber in the body that can handle acids successfully is the stomach chamber. So now the liver need to produce bile and the pancreas need to produce bicarb to actually alkalize this chyme before it hits the small intestine. So ulceration happens when either the liver or the pancreas or both are now so worn out because you've been eating so much acidic food over your lifetime, it just cannot produce the alkalinity anymore. And then the ulceration, especially of the small intestines, and that starts happening. So it's quite the energy extensive process for the body to break down proteins. So that's the digestive processes. Metabolizing processes. When you eat fruits, you instigate the saliva enzyme action to take place. And most of the time, you won't need any more enzymes from the pancreas to successfully break down the fruits. And the metabolizing space of fruits, we call it diffusion. You don't need a carrier like insulin for fructose. It actually diffuses. It falls from a denser atmosphere into a less dense atmosphere. So it literally falls into the cell. The cell doesn't have to work to pull it in. There doesn't need to be a carrier that's produced by something else in the body to bring it into the cell. It literally diffuses into the cell. When you eat glucose-based, so your vegetables and your starches and your more complex carbohydrates, I mentioned earlier, your pancreas has to produce more enzymes for the digestive process. And then when we come to metabolizing it, the cell needs insulin as a carrier to bring in the glucose into the cell. So now you also need the islets of Langerhans of the pancreas to be healthy enough to produce enough insulin. And then a third factor is if you are very blocked on the inside, if you have a very sticky lymphatic fluid on the inside, even when the glucose and the insulin comes together, it can't reach the cell because the cell is surrounded by mucus, and this is where insulin resistance come in. Just as on an interest note. So one of the metabolizing one was the diffusion when the fructose literally falls into the cell. And then there's the other metabolization of glucose where insulin is involved. And then if you eat meat, of course, if you eat meat only, let's put it like that. If you eat meat only, it means you're not bringing any fuel into the body. You're not bringing any energy into the body. You're actually bringing in structure. So you're bringing in a complex amino acid structure. And because you're not bringing in any fuel, the body now has to produce its own fuel. Thank goodness it can do this, right? Aren't our bodies just amazing? If we weren't able to survive on meat at certain points in our history, we wouldn't have been here today. So it's a beautiful survival tactic to be able to live off the structure of the flesh and structure of other entities. You might as well eat human flesh, except for the moral implication of that. This piece of flesh here of mine and of a cow is kind of exactly the same, So depending on how healthy we are, of course. So when you eat meat only, your metabolization is not the pancreas or the diffusion, but it's actually the liver. Now the liver converts fats and protein. It will initially convert fats, and when the fats are done, it would start converting protein. It has to, right? It will start converting proteins to sugars. So that is the different focuses of the digestive processes and the metabolizing processes. I'm just going to park that there. I'm going to refer back to this a little bit later. So where did things go wrong? You know, we've been living on this planet for such a long time, and all of a sudden it seems like things went badly wrong. Where did things go wrong? And this is actually something that we agree with most carnivores out there, is that it happened after World War. You know, our diets changed heavily after World Wars because of what happened during World War. You know, the processing of the foods that were sent out to the soldiers having to be in this very survival and masculine state. So meat was very high on their menu, and I would too. If I'm part of a hippie community and tomorrow we have to defend ourselves against invaders, I would definitely slaughter a cow that night and hype us all up with our masculinity. There's a beautiful place for meat. I'm not bashing meat at all during this whole conversation. I'm just sharing about how our bodies work, what I've learned over time, and you can do with that what you want. So post-World War, we went to an unnatural diet, and that is full stop the problem. It became high processed food, it became high sugar food, high protein, high dairy, high everything. We just went boof, you know, with the baby boomers. And this is where we're at. You know, we have literally written off the pancreatic digestive process. That's why there's so many diabetes going around and blood sugar problems happening. The last 3 generations literally wrote off the pancreatic digestive process. So it kind of makes sense that if people don't know how to heal that, which I would say would be the fruit protocol, switching to the liver metabolizing, eating meat only makes sense, because now you're not reliant on a broken system, but you're switching to another one. So that makes sense. What has happened in our bodies, I have not come across someone who doesn't have a kidney and adrenal situation. We are sitting in modern society after our 3rd, 4th generation post-World War. We are sitting with major disability in our adrenals and our kidneys. And it makes sense, right? Because we've been eating such acid ash forming food that has been coming in and has been coming in with really bad combined, really unnatural and toxic stuff. We've literally shut down our elimination process. We've been accumulating all these wastes and toxins since that time. And as we've been accumulating it, it's been breaking down our body. And where would your body break down? At the weaker places. So this would depend on your genetic makeup. That's why everyone breaks up very uniquely. And that's why people that have been broken down heals, reverse engineer themselves in their very unique way. It's a very unique experience. There's no 2 healing experiences that are similar. We are very unique in our makeup and the effect that foods have on us because of this makeup, and how we heal because of this makeup. But we belong to one species. And if you want to heal, you need to find out what foods are good for that species, and you need to eat accordingly so that you can heal. We'll get to that in a little bit. So because of our kidney breakdown, we are sitting with edemas, bad water retentions. We are sitting with hectic inflammation. We are sitting with high blood pressures. We are sitting with high volumes of uric acid and those kind of things that haven't been able to leave the body. Because of our adrenal breakdown, we are addicted to stimulation. We have to stimulate the adrenals just to feel okay. We're not stimulating it because we're silly. We've just learned that we are feeling much better when we stimulate our adrenals. And how do you stimulate the adrenals? Complex sugars, starches, caffeine, meat, the neurotransmitters in meat, and congestion stimulated as well. So if these adrenals of yours are highly congested in between the cells with a very sticky lymphatic fluid, it's already stimulated. So an adrenal that are stimulated does more for you than a non-stimulated adrenal. That's true. You know, a stimulated adrenal produce more neurotransmitters. So you've got more dopamine, more adrenaline, more noradrenaline. There's a list of neurotransmitters that you now have more of. So that's, you're feeling much better. You have more hormones going around, so that makes you feel much better. You have more steroids going around for the inflammation and fighting the inflammation. So that, and steroids are also used with the metabolization of sugars, excess sugars. So that's nice to have that. And what's the other one? I'll think about it. But in any case, so you have more of all of this, so you're feeling better. But nothing on this planet can stay in a stimulated space. So we have to use something to stimulate it, and then this happens. And then we have to use something to stimulate it, and this happens. And we all know what happens to, for instance, a car. If you keep on, revving it and revving it and revving it, it's going to break down faster. Period. It's just the way life works. If you're going to stimulate something to give you as much as possible without supporting it, it is going to break down eventually. So this is where we are sitting. We're sitting with very low functioning kidneys and adrenal, and that has such cascading effect on our health and our well-being, that no wonder people are faffing around and trying to find ways of feeling better. And the moment you step into eating meat only, you are constantly stimulating your adrenals and you are constantly building up the acid. But let's get to that. Now I'm going to get into the conversation. Let's talk about the fruit protocol versus the necrovore protocol. So this is a new word maybe for some of you. A human eating meat in our modern society would be meat coming from the fridge. And that is not being a carnivore. That is being a necrovore, because you're actually eating dead flesh. A carnivore slaughters the animal right on the spot and eats the warm meat, eats the intestinal, the innate, the food in the stomach of the animal is the first thing that the carnivore goes for. It's pre-digested nutrients, it's pre-digested energy, it's electromagnetism. So the carnivore gets this blood and gets this warm live meat. It's got electromagnetism in it, it's got energy in it. The precomposed and digested food in the stomach has got electromagnetism in it, so it's taking in energy. So you can't call yourself a carnivore if you're human. You are a necrovore. You're eating dead flesh. It has very limited electromagnetism, if any. Especially if you cook it, there won't be any. So let's talk about the fruitarian diet versus the necrovorian diet. Okay. So we agree on, let's start with what we agree upon. We do agree upon a few things. We do agree that the unnatural diets out there is the thing that has been stuffing us up. What I personally see as a natural diet is raw plants, of which fruits would be in my top of my list. But raw plants is a beautiful natural diet. And then meat would be the next natural diet. I am closer to a meat-focused diet than I am to standard veganism, or the standard Western diet, or the standard Indian diet, or the standard Chinese diet. Call it. I'm closer to a meat diet than I am to any one of those. And I think this is some place where we actually agree upon. Those unnatural things is the things that has been really stuffing us up. We need to step away from that. We have to step away from that. I feel so sorry for the vegan people that have chosen to go vegan for health reasons, and with discipline, they've stayed on the course, and their body are completely deteriorated and broken down. That I feel so sorry for them. That traditional veganism goes into the grains too much. It goes into the plant proteins too much. It doesn't observe food combining. It doesn't mind processing. It just goes for the sake of not eating animal products for various reasons. But it doesn't really go into raw veganism. Is the closest I'll get to the word veganism. If I have to define myself, I would say I'm a raw plant eater. I don't touch the word veganism. Vegetarians, they still eat the most inflammatory food on the planet, which is dairy and all of that. So they worse off than the vegans. And the standard Western diet, And then the other thing we completely agree upon is the importance of food combining. I know the carnivore guys call it something else, somehow the cycle, which is great. And in our understanding, we just know that if you combine carbohydrates, which are alkaline based, with complex amino acid structures, which are protein based, if you combine these food in your diet, you're not digesting the carbohydrates, they're actually fermenting, and you're feeding the fungi in your body, which is why when people come to me and say, do you have an antifungal for me? I don't often sell it to them without trying to get them to do the fruit protocol, because you have to change the environment so that the parasites don't come back. You know, if you keep on eating carbohydrates mixed with proteins, then you need the fungi. You're going to have a lot of other problems if you don't have the fungi around. Your body is going to instruct the fungi to proliferate and to grow, because it needs more of it to deal with the level of fermentation because of the indigestion of the carbohydrates that you ate with the proteins. On the other hand, the proteins are also not digesting as well as it would have. It's also been interfered with. You know, so, and in this case, you're looking at putrefaction. You know, proteins don't ferment, they putrefy, they become disgusting. And this is very acidic and very toxic. And now we're sitting. Let's talk about the anatomy. I want to get to the anatomy. Let's just finish the food combination thing. I just want to give it a little bit more time. So we can't stress the importance of food combining more. And to understand food combining, you need to understand what is the effect that the food has on your body after digestion. In other words, what minerals, what ash is left after digestion that are now influencing the body? And this is the question you have to ask yourself. Some fruits are acidic, but when you eat it, the ash that it leaves behind in the body is alkaline, like citrus. Other fruits are acidic, and after eating, the ash that it leaves in your body afterwards is still acidic, like a plum. When you eat meat and you eat it, the minerals left after digestion are the following: nitrogen compounds, which is nitrates, ammonia, puranes or pyrimidine, uric acid, uratinum, phosphoric acid, sulfuric acid, glucogenic acids, ketogenic acids, and carbon dioxide. None of those can be used by the body successfully. Some of it can be transmuted by the liver. The liver is amazing, and it can do certain things of that, but it can't do all of it, and definitely not in the copious amounts of the way that carnivores pump it into the body. So if you want to see if you are excreting those, because then you're fine, right? If you take in meat and all those acid ash are now left that is not usable by the body, but you get your feces tested and you get your urine tested and those acids are in your feces and are in your urine, then it's fine. You're fine. Your body is working perfectly. It is eliminating the toxins. You're sharp. So that's maybe a good thing that the carnivores can do, is start testing, having lab tested your feces and your urine and see if these acids. Now for this is the biggest, there's two problems I have with the whole carnivore idea. Well, actually more than two, but two in how they're trying to convince us of the carnivore protocol. One is they never mention the lymphatic fluid. It's not in their peripheral. When they say, meat doesn't acidify my blood, so it's clearly not a problem, I agree with that. It won't acidify your blood. Your body is going to work its ass off to stop it from acidifying the blood. So yes, we agree upon that, and we agree upon the fact that if it's too late and if your blood goes acidic, you're dead. So absolutely we agree upon that. But until the carnivores start acknowledging the existence of the lymphatic fluid, they don't have a story. They don't have a story. They're ignoring one of the most important elements in the body to stay healthy, the sewage system and the working of it. And I can promise you, if you eat meat only, your kidneys are not filtering. You can test it. You can urinate in a glass jar first thing in the morning and see if you can see any lymph in your urine. If you can't, your kidneys are not filtering the lymph out of your body. It's so easy. It's so simple, right? So on the other hand, if you look at the plum that was acidic, right, the minerals that's left after digesting the plum is potassium, very usable by the body, Calcium, very usable by the body. Phosphorus, which is an acid, right? Very usable by the body though. It builds bones. Iron, very usable by the body. Copper, manganese, magnesium, zinc. And the cumulative, the sum of the total of these minerals are actually acidic. But it's acidic acids that the body actually have a purpose for. So you can't compare the acid ash of an acid ash fruit or acid ash plant with the acid ash left by meat. You can go check it out. Go research it. There is copious amounts of information out there showing you exactly what meat breaks down into. This is not something you have to second guess or wonder if it's true. You can go find it through many different researches, what meat breaks down into, and then checking on the periodic table, are these elements acid or alkaline? So these guys that keeps on claiming, no, the acid effect of the meat can't affect me, it is BS. I'm sorry. It is, if you ignore that, you're ignoring one of the main categorizations of our existence. And it's just, it becomes a bit of a laughing stock, to be honest. Okay. So when we eat meat only, you are putting so much stress on the liver. If you go look at the functions of the liver, it's a very extensive list. They actually haven't even gotten to the bottom of what the liver can do for us, right? The liver really works hard. And if you eat meat only, you now adding a function that the liver have to produce bile, enough to alkalize this chyme before it hits your small intestine. Many people have had their gallbladder removed. So the gallbladder serves as a holding tank for the bile produced by the liver, which when you've got a gallbladder, it means that your liver doesn't have to produce bile on demand, at least, you know. But now without a gallbladder, your liver have to produce on demand. Not only are you asking that now of your liver, you're also asking the liver to use structure and produce fuel for you. You want the liver now to produce the sugars for you. And the very process, remember how we said you need a acid breakdown to break down proteins? So when the liver breaks down fat and proteins into sugar, the ketosis that happens is an acid, is hot, is an acidic process. Now, the carnivore guys claims it's not, but how can you trust what they say about alkalinity and acidity? They don't even agree that it matters. You know, so they're going to have to explain that. Now you've got this very acidic process taking place, adding hotness and acids to the system. So that's how it works when you eat meat only. Now let's look at some of the problems the carnivores have with eating fruits only. They say things like vitamin K2 can't be produced anymore. They say the body is able to produce it, but it doesn't happen anymore. The body is able to produce omega-3 and 6s from ALA fats, but it can't do that so successfully for some people anymore. The body some people are methylating B complex vitamins, but some people don't. That process is not, methylation is not working anymore. And then what was the other one? Oh, vitamin D. You know, so now all of these are reasons they say it's a good reason to move to the carnivore diet, necrovore diet. So let's just think about this for a little bit. Why are some people fine? I'm 6 years into eating almost no protein and much longer not eating meat, right? I stopped eating meat in 2014 for the first time, and then I re-engaged with meat in 2017, and I stopped again in 2018. So I've been a long time without meat, and my B12 is absolutely fine. My two boys have a problem with B12. I'm helping them to restore it. I'm managing it with them, you know. So why do some people methylate B complexes while and others don't? Because something is broken and those that don't do it. So now what are you going to do if something is broken? Are you going to fix that something, or are you going to just get whatever the body now needs from the outside? So we've got this saying, the moment you start taking something that the body is supposed to be making, those cells in the body that was supposed to make it will actually stop making it, because your body is going to scan it and goes like, whoa, skin, please don't produce any vitamin D. This person has a lot of vitamin D in him because this person is supplementing on vitamin D. Or, please don't methylate B12 because there is enough B12 in this body. This body has had meat or has had a B12 supplementation. So please, the methylation process, whoa, hold on, you're going to overdo things, And just that is actually breaking down those cells that would have produced the B12 for us, the methylation of B12. And that the same with the K2. I have my bloods done every year and my bloods are perfect. It wasn't. While I was healing, I had ups and downs and I had to support myself with it. But now I'm perfect, and it's because I healed it. So you've got a choice of healing the body or then switching to another engine to prevent some of the symptomology that comes from using the older, worn-out engine, the pancreatic side of things, right? So you can do that, but this is not healing the body. It cannot heal the body because you're on a survival mode. You are not, it's an urgency. It's not longevity, it's an urgency. We know what a nitrogen engine does. You can flip the switch for a little while and then it's done. You have to go back to the sustainable carbohydrate engine because that's where the sustainability is. That's where the longevity are. So we utilize the acid side of things when we need it, but making that your environment, I think it's a very, very dangerous game to play. Okay, so let's come back to why certain people have broken parts. What have added to the fact that a certain person can't produce enough vitamin D? Basically, it comes down to either the blood has been compromised and bringing nutrients to the cell, and or the lymph has been compromised to take wastes and toxins successfully out of the body, and or the nerve cells or the nerve components of cells have been damaged because blood and lymph serving the cells has been compromised. So now the nerve function is actually damaged. So now the cell could have probably done its job if it received the instructions with a good receiver, and now that is damaged. So it's not happening. This happens many times with diabetes, that the nerve in the islets of Langerhans beta cells are damaged. So the actual structure is not so damaged, but the nerve component of it is damaged. So there's a kind of neurological diabetes out there as well. And then the last one is because we supplement with it from the outside, hormone treatment, anything that the body is supposed to make, you should not take. If you start taking melatonin because you can't sleep, the very gland that is supposed to produce the melatonin for you to sleep better stops producing it and becomes weaker and weaker in that function. So you literally are cultivating a further weakness of the weakness that you are treating. So it's definitely not ideal to bring it in from the outside. And when we eat meat, we bring in neurotransmitters that is in this flesh from the outside. We're supplementing with neurotransmitters, and this affects especially our adrenals. Our adrenals produce the bulk of the neurotransmitters in our body, and that functionability of the adrenals are then further weakened. And that is why, because we're using all the stimulants and this supplementation, our adrenals are in the weak state that they are. Okay, so it's very interesting for me to hear a carnivore say, we are carnivores. It is very clear that we are carnivores, because that's what I say about we are frugivores. It's very clear that we are frugivores. So let's maybe dive into that a little bit. I would love to know on what basis the necrovore guys, girls, say that we are carnivores. I suspect the only reason they say this is because they've looked at certain people's versions of our past and decided, because of their understanding and aging process and whatever, now because of that, it's clear that our ancestors have been eating meat, and that means we are carnivores. I suspect that's the only reason they say this. On the other hand, I'm quite happy to know that I am using quite current science to get to the point where I say we are frugivores, and it's not just me, of course. But what is science? Science is observing nature and learning from it, right? And analyzing it and categorizing it. And So let's do that as humans, right? We don't have to have a degree to do that. Let's use science. Let's look at the human body, the anatomy of the human body, and we compare it to the anatomy of a carnivore. So a carnivore has extremely sharp teeth and a jaw that can do only this. It can't do this, right? It has extremely strong stomach acids. It has a very short, large intestine, very short, because remember, it works with meat that putrefies. It needs to get out of the system quick. And the intestines it's not folded like ours. It doesn't have pockets. It's very smooth, right? It's got tools. It's got speed. It's got force. It's got this jaw. It's got nails. It lives in a pack. It is designed to hunt, naturally designed to hunt. Okay, so of all those things that plays a role in what kind of food a species should be looking at, there's no correlation between this body and the body of a carnivore. I'm not saying this body can't survive on meat. Have I said that? No, I didn't say that. This body has been beautifully made and has been beautifully evolving with our choice of lifestyle and our choice of consumption, because we've got the power over that, right? So let's compare the anatomy of this body to a herbivore. So a herbivore has a very different jaw than ours. It can literally grind plant material to a flour if it wants to, right? It can regurgitate to chew some more. It has 2 to 7 stomachs. 2 to 7 stomachs to deal with the tough plant material that it's eating. It's got a small intestine that is 30 times the length of their spine. So just realize that our size herbivore have a longer spine than we do, and 30 times the length of their spine is their intestines, to deal with the absorbing that's necessary of this very tough material it's eating. I'm also very sorry for the people that have chosen vegetables as their prime thing. There's so many people living on the green juice and the green thing, and they find themselves chemically in trouble. They've got a lot of kidney stone things happening. They've got the liver is also not very happy. They've got the blood sugar situation happening. It's so sad because it's quite a discipline to stay on that diet. But it's not our diet. Again, we use greens even in the fruitarian protocol, but we process it. We make teas, tinctures, we make it a powder, we juice it, we dehydrate the juice. This is how we bring in medicine to support us. It's beautiful. I love vegetables. Again, I have no problem with vegetables, but it's not the diet of our species. Omnivores I'm not going to spend too much time on, but it's interesting to see that they're closer to us than any of the others. Their spine is 10 times the length of their intestines is 10 times the length of their spine. But if you look at the tools they have, it's tools that we don't have. So if you look at the anatomy like that, again, it doesn't make sense that we need to now go dig and we have beaks to be able to get the insects out and to, it's not the way this body has been built. And then on the other hand, there is the primates. So if you compare our anatomy to the primates, it's very clear that whatever or whoever or however this body has come into existence, it has been schooled on the anatomy of a primate. And if we observe what primates eat in their natural environment without the interference of humans, they do eat meat, yes, but it's minuscule, the amount. It might be once in a blue moon that they come across insects or whatever that they want to eat. Those that have learned to kill and eat are addicted to meat like humans are. And I know it's an addiction because I had to kick it. The same way I had to kick the addiction of tobacco and any other addiction I have. I know meat is addictive because I had to kick the addiction. And that stimulating effect that meat has in the adrenals is the addictive factor. It's what your body craves. I just want to feel better. Give me something to make me feel better. I always say, if we didn't look like the primates, if this body didn't compare to any of the vertebrates that walk the face of this planet, I might have sat down and listened why we are supposedly carnivores, necrovores. But that's not the case. We are fully anatomically aligned with those of the primates. And, if that means there's some meat in our diet every now and then, I have biltong maybe twice a year just because I love it. And if I come across a beautiful source of it and there's a beautiful human that shares it with me, I really, I have it, 1 or 2 pieces, a handful. And I really do enjoy it. Before I entered into this current fruit detox that I'm on, I had some lamb chops because that was what I was craving on and off. And I really wanted to enjoy it. I made myself 2. I had one and I gave the other one away. It was satisfying. I have no problem with meat. But if you are gonna fully switch to something like meat, you're gonna have to make sure that you understand what you're doing and what body you're cultivating, what personality you're cultivating, what lifestyle you're cultivating, what world you are choosing by choosing this form of sustenance. So like we said before, and I'm coming to a close here, I'm not going to drag it out much longer, but it boils down to that you cannot ignore the existence of the lymph and the effect that meat has on the lymph. So let's maybe speak about the 4 defense mechanisms. Actually, kind of 5, but not really. It's kind of 4 defense mechanisms that the body switch to when the inner environment becomes so acidic that it really burns the tissue and brings damage to the tissue. So why I say 5 is what the meat diet does. Because they're eating exclusively meat, they are doing themselves a favor compared to the standard Western diet with bad food combinings, or even the keto diet that still combine meat with salads and stuff. They're actually doing themselves a favor because there's less of that interference at the digestion level. So it's just a protein digestion, it's an acid digestion that gets alkaline. A further service they're giving themselves is there's no excess sugar in the system. This is a service they're giving their body, because this means that the sugar produced by the liver now, because it breaks down fats and proteins, are actually just the sugar that can be received, and there's no excess sugar going around, which is also a beautiful thing. So there's that thing that makes the carnivore diet a much healthier diet than the keto or the paleo or the vegan or the standard Western diet or the Chinese or the Indian culture or whatever. It makes it healthier than all of those. But what it does is it deposits these acids, and now you're not depositing any alkalinity, right? Because you're eating only meat. So now you're only depositing acidity to the body, and hectic dehydration kicks in. So this lymphatic fluid that's supposed to be this river that picks up the waste in your body dehydrates completely eventually. It literally, what dry snot looks like? That's what it starts looking like on the inside of the body. And this is why they experience healing, because the immune response, the lymphatic response is gone. All of a sudden, there's no more mucus. There's no more coughing. The zits, which was mucus, dries up. Everything dries up. They're like, look at this. My symptomology have stopped. They haven't healed anything, but the symptomology have stopped. And remember how I said, if you have a strong body, you need more than one lifetime to kill it. So you can go onto meat and have this very kind of urgent and stimulated life, and that might be exactly what you signed up for when you came to this planet. You might have decided that this time around, I'm not going to go for longevity and calm and all of that. I'm going to go for urgency and survival and excitement, and I'm going to have this burst of life, and that's what I'm going to do. So again, there's nothing wrong. You can choose what you want to do. On the other side of things, though, is if you go to the fruit side of things, you're hydrating and alkalizing your lymphatic fluid. So on the downside on switching to a fruit protocol is you will start healing, and healing becomes a messy business. And this is not something that theoretically might happen. It happens every time with everybody. If you stay on fruits long enough, the the mucus starts exiting the body successfully again. So it happens different for many people. In my case, my strongest elimination organs are my lungs. It's my strongest elimination organs. My kidneys was very weak when I started out. So when my body started excreting mucus, it was coming through my lungs. It was literally, I was coughing up mucus for months. And I wasn't sick. I didn't have cold and flu, any other symptoms. So this, sometimes you do. 4 weeks ago, I went into a lack of cold and flu. I had proper decongesting happening. And since that is done, now the flow is open and the mucus is just happening, and it's just dropping, and it's just leaving my body. It's so exciting to see the mucus leave your body. So important that the mucus leave the body. And as this mucus leave the body, then your cells are freeing up. It's receiving the nutrients again. You are light, you are shining, you are not, it's not like your symptomology is gone. It's the whole body is moving and is breathing and is alive. You're starting to restore processes that have broken down. So for instance, very skinny people have a digestive and an absorption process and probably a utilization process that is so broken down, they're actually feeding the toilet when they eat. None of the food is not entering the system, and if it's entering the system, it's not successfully being utilized by the system either, because there's not the necessary enzyme function, because the adrenals are weak, or because the digestion is not working, because the digestive organs are weak, or the absorption is not working because they still have a mucoid plaque that forms on the inside of the intestines, and the GI tract wall is so congested with lymphatic waste that it just doesn't absorb as it should. So as you stick to this hydration and alkalization, it becomes a liquid and it leaves your body and it frees up these cells, and your absorption is restored, your digestion is absorbed, your utilization is absorbed. I always tell people not to be scared of losing weight. Even if you lose muscle, you will be losing muscle weight. If your muscles are compromised with acidic, with acids. I mean, if you move into a new home and you're renovating it, and there's this horrible compromised wall in your kitchen, you're not going to keep it because you're scared you can't build a new wall. You're going to break it down and you're going to build a new wall. Our body builds its own proteins like all other animals on this planet. Our body builds its own proteins, and it only needs amino acids and minerals as building blocks. So we were told that proteins are amino acids. That's true. What we are not told is that all biological structure contains amino acids. The apple would have been a blob of juice if it didn't have amino acids and minerals to build its structure. A grape would have been a blob of juice if it didn't have amino acids and minerals to build its structure. You can get all the amino acids you need from plant material. We do. We are strongly built. We have no deficiencies. We have no problems in our body. This is just one family, and I can point you to many other families in South Africa that I am aware of that have healed and are healing on fruits. And that's just in South Africa. That's just in my little community. There is millions of people that have accepted fruit as being the species, as the diet of our species, and are healing on it. And now I also want to bring the good news. It's not a life sentence on fruit either. A healthy body needs more than one lifetime to get it to break down again. How amazing. How amazing. And then, we have settled with the fact that we should be 100, but there are many people believing that we actually have a 900-year-old body, and that for some other reason it just can't surpass the 100-year mark, and some do. And I'm working hard on surpassing the 100-year mark. I want to reach 140, and I want to be very strong when I do that. And I think there's going to be a generation that proves this to be right. There are not many people that can stick to a completely fruit protocol. What I'll do after I share this video is, and I'll share the links in the description area as well, I'll share the stories of a few people who has been on fruits for longer than a few decades, and where they are at in their life and how they're experiencing life, just to see, just so you know. And if you do decide to give the fruit thing a go, do your research. Go buy yourself some books. Go spend some time on the research. Find out the ins and outs of it. Maybe you feel comfortable to take me on as a coach a little bit. Join one of my online workshops, and I teach you what I know. The idea of my 28-day workshop is really to empower people in such a way that they don't need me afterwards, that they can actually continue healing by themselves. And many does. I do have longer period programs as well. I love it to heal with people and on a longer term basis, and supporting each other with it. So those are there as well. So you don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, this is now so new. Where am I even going with it? It's just, just trust yourself as a sovereign human. Trust your own observations of nature, of your own body, and give things a go. Don't be too scared in trying it. I would say if you want to give the fruit protocol a try, initially you will need a good 6-month period minimal to get to the place where we only start really eliminating some people like week 3 already. Other people that's got a bit more difficult kidneys week 6. Some people work like a year just to get their kidneys to filter. So we are in very different places in our life, right? So we can't all now go like, oh, so this is how it's going to be for everyone. What I've picked up with, though, the people that does the longer term detoxes with me, only by month 4 does the skin start healing hectically. And the skin, first it goes in, it gets worse, it sags more, and there's more of a rash or whatever you've been dealing with, and then it starts healing. And it makes sense. I mean, this is thick, right? We can make a leather handbag with this if we want to. It's not like it's soft tissue. So getting through to the layers of the skin takes time. So I would say give it at least a 6-month experience. Those that does the 28-day detox do experience the healing. I mean, you start feeling different from day 2 already. It's really it's not something that you have to wait for a long time before you start seeing results. You see it from the beginning. And if you are coached well, and if you have done your research, you know that your body would be going through healing to get healthy. So you're not going to always have this honeymoon stage of feeling wonderful and better. You're actually going to go into healing events. It could be cold and flu-like symptoms. If you've had a lot of bronchitis in your life, it's going to feel like that, but it's the stuckness won't be there. It will still be hard work to heal, right? It's hard work to keep space for your body when things are stuck and you have to expectorate and you have to cough and convulse. Some people experience a lot of cramping happening, and it's not often that you're going to be surprised by the experiences you have. You kind of you kind of reverse engineering your way back to health. So whatever has happened to you in your life, whatever healing challenges you've experienced, you're going to reverse engineer your way back. So if you used to have UTIs, you're going to have burning experiences. You might experience a little bit of incontinence, that kind of thing, as it heals, because it's busy healing. So it's in motion, right? If you had injuries, you're gonna, I had 2 cesareans. So at times it would be inflamed, my cut, and then it will heal a stretch, it will heal deeper, and then it goes away. The sensation there goes away, and then 2 months later it pops up again. It's not a linear thing either. The body is this beautiful, very complex composition of life that is applying whatever acids and electricity and elements and nutrition it can to serve the whole the best that it can. It was a wonderful conversation. I hope I touched on a few important things for some people. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of a response from those that have been trained otherwise. I'm very curious to see what the response are. I'm very eager to continue the conversation so that we can unravel it and allow people to just take the information and make with it what they can. And again, I just want to stress, trust yourself, trust your senses, trust what you see, trust if you compare your anatomy to the anatomy of another species, just use your logic. Don't just rely on people that's trying to explain that it's hypothesis on our past. No one can prove it. I mean, there's so many different versions of our past. One of the links I'll share, is an extraction from a beautiful book where they speak of the fruit's origins of man. And it was a paleo researcher that switched and realized, but wait a minute, before there was tools and before there was fire, what happened then? Before we started going north into the cold, what happened then? Where were we? What did we do? Before we started cultivating grains 10,000 years ago, where were we? What were we doing? You know, some people say we are only 10,000 years old. Other people say we are 500 billion years old, the human species. Who do you believe? Where do you go? So relying only on historical evidence, I think, is a bit of a harsh one to rely upon. Rather rely on current situations and make up your mind and experience it. Jump in and experience it. And remember, you're choosing your world, you're choosing your lifestyle. I would much rather have a world teeming with fruit jungles than I have a very flat world that serves the feeding of cattle so that they can get killed and everything that entails to that. Thank you for listening. Please do reach out. We have a monthly 28-day detox running. I will love to walk a journey with you and be a witness of your healing.